Arizona basketball, Arizona football, you name it, we got it. Let's get it started here on Locked On Wildcats.
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, a very eventful last 48 hours or so for Arizona athletics. But let's start with the elephant in the room. We've got to talk about Arizona against ASU. And what you saw right there was two programs that are going in different directions. Now, I will say this. ASU is definitely better than I thought they would be. They've got some pretty good talent across the perimeter. I don't hate at all what they have right there, and I think he's done a pretty good job of getting players in there. But you're also seeing, though, a program that is just kind of just going in a rudderless direction. And what I mean by that is when you watch ASU, there's next to no structure. There's next to basically anything. I mean, it's kind of your old school free for all right there. And I think that's something that Bobby Hurley has embraced. But again, it's only going to get you so far. Now, they did do some pretty good work right there, applying pressure on U of A in the second half and really getting that game close before Arizona came back. But you also saw the difference, though, between Tommy Lloyd and Bobby Hurley in this game. Arizona did not play a great game. ASU obviously didn't either. But Arizona still was able to rely on what has got them to this point. And what has got them to this point has been the great interior play of Oumar Ballo, of Azuolas Tubelis. And like I've talked about on other platforms, you generally don't see when you watch these two guys, I didn't even think that they played, one of their better games per se, but you still finished with 35 points and 20 rebounds. And ASU just was not able to combat that in any way, shape, or form. Now, I'm excited to see what going forward for Arizona, but let's break down what happened in this game. Now, you got the two big men. You got Azuolas Tubelis and you've got Oumar Ballo. They combined for 35 and 20. But you look at some of the other players right there, then it becomes a little interesting. Kerr Kriisa, everyone's favorite lightning rod, had kind of an interesting game, passed up some open shots that, I think a lot of people thought that he would probably take. And then you got Pelle Larsson, our guy, the Swedish pinball, who plays very, very good defense. There's no way. I mean, he's one of the better defenders in the conference. But what's weird about him, though, is that he can't score. I mean, he can't shoot. And I don't know that was something that we saw going into this year. It's certainly not something that I expected to see, where he was going to struggle shooting the ball. But his percentages just aren't up there, and it'll be interesting to see if Arizona is able to get that one back for him. But Courtney Ramey, kind of what you see is what you get. And there's nothing wrong with Courtney Ramey. I'm a fan of Courtney Ramey, but, he's not going to be a guy that's going to take over games. That's just not really his MO. His MO is far more of a, get a few points here, get a few buckets there, get some assists, get some rebounds, but he's not going to be a guy that's going to take a game over. That's just not how he's built. But the one weakness this team has, and again, the one weakness they have, I think, is that there's not really a great ball handler on this team. There's not a guy that, can just get downhill, has that next level burst, and can really stress a defense. Now, maybe that does come at some point. Well, it's not going to come at this point, but either way, this is still a top 5 to 10 team in the country, but you did see some warning signs. That game against ASU, I think, certainly showed that, there are some concerns from time to time with this squad. But you can say in college basketball, look around the nation, you can say that about pretty much everybody, that everybody's got some concerns. and Arizona, probably has fewer concerns than other teams. But overall, a very, very nice win for Arizona. Now, also, wanted to talk a little bit of recruiting here, and we're going to talk some Arizona football as well, and some Arizona women's basketball. But with football, or excuse me, with not with football, with let's talk a little bit though about recruiting. Jamari Phillips, 5-star kid that Arizona gets from California. He is first of all, he's probably a 2-year guy, which is definitely what you like to see if you're an Arizona fan. And he also puts a little bit of that rumor to rest that Tommy Lloyd can't recruit domestically. I, again, never really bought into that, but, you did strike out on quite a few guys. So Jamari Phillips, you get him, 5-star kid, great get for Arizona. And let's not forget about his buddy, Carter Bryant, out of California. Carter Bryant at about 6'8". I think Arizona sits very, very well for him. He's going to be taking his trip. He's going to be taking his official here in the early part of conference play. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if Arizona was able to lock up a commitment. They love him, as they should. He is, you watch him, again, I don't want to you don't want to compare players because, you can kind of fall into that rabbit's hole, but he's got a little bit of Jason Tatum in him, in that he's about 6'8", pretty smooth, can handle the ball really well, just not a lot of flaws to his game. And I think Arizona is obviously very happy, would be very happy to have him in the fold as well. Now, something that also kind of came to my mind a little bit, though, about this Arizona team is Oumar Ballo and Azuolas Tubelis. They're very, very good players. I'm not breaking any news right here. They're very good players, but they're also not great NBA prospects. And that is something that might bring them back for another year. Both of them struggle inside against length. They're not great quick twitch type guys that, really jump out at you from an athleticism perspective. But, but you can definitely see, though, where maybe if you get the right kind of NIL deals, who knows, you can get those guys back here, because if you got both these guys back, then I think Arizona would be in a very, very good situation. As a matter of fact, I think you're looking at a preseason #1 team in the country type situation right there. But overall, as we know, this is a very, very good basketball team. And those kudos have to go to Tommy Lloyd. Tommy Lloyd, as I've been saying, right coach at the right time. Big kudos to Dave Hickey for figuring this one out. And getting the right guy in for the job. He is, again, you watch these guys right now, and they're clicking on all cylinders. And again, they're better than I thought. I didn't expect Arizona to be this good this soon, and they are, they're very good. This is going to be a top 10 team all season, and that absolutely is to Tommy Lloyd's credit right there. As far as the going forward in conference play, we talked about it before, but there's essentially just 2 teams that matter in this conference right now. Arizona and UCLA are the only 2 teams that really matter. You might have some other teams, a USC or an Oregon, that might be able to sneak something in from time to time, but those aren't the ones that are going to really matter when it comes big picture here. It's Arizona, it's UCLA, and it's basically nobody else. Now, you might say, how do they match up? They're both very different teams. Arizona likes to beat you up inside, and try to score a bunch of points. UCLA relies on a lot of, relies on veteran savvy leadership. Probably not quite as explosive, but when you've got a Jaime Jaquez, when you got a Tiger Campbell, when you got a Jalen Clark, players like that, that's something that you can depend on that not a lot of teams have. But so it's those 2 teams right now, and Arizona took care of what it needed to take care of in the out-of-conference schedule. And if it wants to get that #1 seed, those will be the best 2 games that they can use to further that going forward. But overall, Arizona basketball is sitting in really good shape, by the way, going into conference play. Now, let's talk a little bit about LinkedIn. We talked about recruiting with LinkedIn. First of all, LinkedIn, get the applicants you need for free. Post your job for free. LinkedIn.com/LockedOnCollege. LinkedIn has what you need. There's a reason that everybody uses it. And honestly, I don't know anybody that doesn't have a LinkedIn. And there's a reason that everybody has a LinkedIn. It's because it works. So check it out again. Now, this segment is brought to you by LinkedIn, /LockedOnCollege. Again, post your job for free. But let's say, talking a little bit more about recruiting, we're going to switch over to the Arizona football side right now. And we're going to talk about Leviticus Sua. Now, Arizona obviously did a very, very good job bringing in a new recruiting class. And these are guys that Jedd Fisch clearly is very comfortable in what he has. But with what you got right now, with Jedd, you would like to get some more linebackers in play. And if you can get some more linebackers in play, I think that's something that Arizona would very much like to have. With this squad, you need some difference makers. You need some guys who are, for lack of a better term, are able to get tackles downhill. Leviticus Sua can do that. If you would have him, you would have Justin Flo, you would have obviously Jacob Manu and Jerry Roberts. That is a nice little setup right there. That is a very nice little setup right there. So Leviticus, who is going to be announcing this month, I have no clue where he's going to go, but I will say that I think Arizona sits very, very pretty with him. So again, that was your segment brought to you by LinkedIn. Come back with us, and we're going to talk a little bit more about where Arizona stands going forward, Arizona football, and what exactly they need with a few of those open spots still remaining. Thanks for keeping it locked on, Wildcats. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, now we're just talking some Arizona football right here, and we're talking about spots that need to be dealt with if you're Arizona. So let's just kind of go position by position. First, I love the quarterback spot right now. If this is about the deepest quarterback situation that I can remember at the U of A. Now, again, you could say, well, that doesn't necessarily mean a ton, and you would be right. But that's not where I'm getting at right here. What I'm getting at, though, is that Arizona, obviously, you got to love Jayden de Laura right there. But if Jayden de Laura were to go down, you have a very, very capable player in Noah Fifita, who the coaching staff absolutely believes is going to be big time. You can just tell by watching them that they believe that there's a lot to like about Mr. Noah Fifita. And then after that, you got Braden Dorman coming in, big 4-star kid, big arm, different than the other two quarterbacks on the roster, a guy that Jedd Fisch said from day one that they prioritize. So that quarterback spot, and you always hear this phrase too, that if you don't have a quarterback, you don't have anything. And that phrase is generally true. But Arizona is, I think, one of the few teams in the conference that is very well equipped to be able to sustain if a quarterback were to go down for a little while because of the quality depth they have. Then at running back, it's much the same situation. Obviously, love getting Michael Wiley back. Michael Wiley is, I think, one of the more underrated players in all of college football. He was absolutely fantastic. But, at the running back position, as we know, players can get hurt from time to time. And when players get hurt from time to time, you need to have somebody else back there. That's why you have a player. That's where you bring in guys like a DJ Williams, a Brandon Johnson, another one, Jonah Coleman. Got some really good players right there. So those are, again, at the running back spot, you've got a pretty good stable of players. And I think Arizona fans should be very excited about that. Now, at the wide receiver spot, we've talked about this all year. Arizona set at the wide receiver position. I know that you lose Dorian Singer. Nobody likes to lose a player like that, but I believe between Kevin Green, AJ Jones, players that you have coming in, Mario Wilson, you're going to be able to figure somebody out there that's going to be able to put up numbers. And again, we've talked about it as well. The tight end spot, you've got Tanner McLaughlin, you've got Kean Burnett, you've got a lot of players, you've got multiple players there that fans should be excited about. Then on the O-line, it's going to be interesting because you get Jordan Morgan back, which is a huge get, as we know, and you're bringing in Raymond Polito, ex-Alabama offensive line commit. Those, I think Arizona would love for him to be able to step in and start. It'll be interesting to see if he's ready. He's a massive kid. Now, if he can move his feet in the way that they need, then probably in some pretty good situations right there. But who knows, really, because, again, it's offensive line is interesting. Now with on the interior line, I think you're set. We've talked about Big Wendell Moe, Jonas Sabanea, Josh Baker. Good stuff right there all the way around. You got to love what they've got. And at the now on the defensive side, you lose Hunter Echols, you lose Jalen Harris. Obviously, you don't feel great about losing either one of those guys, but you do have I think on the defensive tackle position, you're going to be pretty good. You got Kangaika, you got Uiagalelei, you've got you bring in a big Bill Norton, great name, by the way, Bill Norton. You bring in big Bill Norton, then out of Georgia, and you've got other guys. You've got a Manoa, you've got a Tia Savea coming back. So you got bodies right there. And I think you just need the defensive line to just be decent, because I think the strength of the team next year is going to be that linebacking core, and they just need somebody to be able to keep it off of them. All right. Let's take a quick break and then come back. We're going to talk a little. Well, actually, first, let's talk BetOnline. All right, BetOnline Sportsbook. All right, everybody you might be looking around and saying, I'd like to bet somewhere, but it's kind of intimidating. I don't know where to bet, all of that stuff. The BetOnline Sportsbook has you covered. It's easy to use. You can find all the latest odds, news, scores, you name it. The BetOnline Sportsbook has it. I thought before the year that Arizona was going to win more than 2.5 games, and they did. They won 5. This year, I think Arizona is going to win about 7. So if you think that I'm smart, go with the over of that. If you think that I'm dumb, go with the under. But BetOnline Sportsbook is the best place to be for all of that. Check it out. All right, take a quick break. We'll be right back with you, getting you ready for tomorrow. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats. I'm your host, Mike Luke. All right. Now, tomorrow it's going to be a heavy Arizona women's basketball show. We've got Arizona's obviously playing really good ball right now. And this is a team that I thought from the beginning could be a national title contender. I thought they had that ability. I have seen nothing to dissuade me at all from that. But again, just wanted to talk about Arizona men's basketball. Top 5 in the country, obviously, playing really well. The one thing about them, they've got some flaws, but everybody else has some flaws. But they're clearly the best team in the conference, and I don't even think that there's a close second. And then, and going into conference play, there might be a couple teams that could upset them from time to time. But I don't see that being a regular thing, because I think that Arizona is just too big and too good generally across the board. And then you've got Arizona football. The majority of the heavy lifting is done, but I'd love to see them add a few more pieces, which I think they will. Keep in mind, like we said, Leviticus Sua, 4-star linebacker, is going to be announcing in January. Love where Arizona stands with him. And I think Arizona will get to the linebacking core is going to be a strength of that team. So overall, good stuff from Arizona this past week. I hope everybody out there had a great New Year's, safe New Year's, Merry Christmas. And as you all know, we're back in it. We're doing it we're on every single game. We're doing nows as well. But again, as always out there, we will be back with you tomorrow. I am your host, Mike Luke. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats. Have a great rest of your Monday, and we will talk with you tomorrow. We'll talk to you soon.